They're calling it a rethink. Starmer goes out in front of the cameras and tells the press that Britain will look again at international law so we can deal with small boat crossings. He frames it as pragmatic, calm, statesmanlike. He wants to look tough enough to stop the Channel boats, but respectable enough not to spook the lawyers or upset Brussels. That's the Labour way. Say you'll be serious, say you'll be compassionate, but try not to say anything that could be pinned to the wall later. But let's be real, a rethink is nothing. A rethink is a press release. A rethink doesn't stop a single boat, doesn't touch a single smuggler's profits, doesn't halt a single dinghy shoving off from a French beach in the dead of night. A rethink is politics as delay. A rethink is the language of someone who wants to look like they're moving without taking a single step. It's the diplomatic equivalent of nodding politely while your house burns down. Meanwhile, the crossings don't stop. Thousands of people crammed onto dinghies, paying fortunes to smugglers who know full well the game. Once that boat touches British soil, the legal machine kicks in. Lawyers arrive. Appeals drag on for years. Human rights cases pile up. Charities film arrivals and beam them onto social media feeds to trigger sympathy. And all the while the smugglers advertise, "Look, they made it. They're in Britain. You could be too. Pay us and you'll get there." That's the brutal arithmetic. It isn't ideology, it's market forces. As long as arrivals equal access to Britain's asylum system, the trade thrives. And Starmer's rethink doesn't change that. It tweaks the margins, maybe changes the case law that gets quoted in court, but it doesn't alter the core incentive. The core incentive is, step foot on British soil and you've won the lottery. That has to end. Let's cut through the polite jargon. If European law, as interpreted today, prevents Britain from sending people back the moment they are intercepted, if conventions and treaties mean every arrival must be processed here, housed here, litigated here, then European law is the problem. And problems don't deserve deference, they deserve solutions. If the system cannot bend to protect our borders, then the system must break. What does that mean in practice? It means this. Every small boat intercepted in the Channel or landing on our beaches should be returned immediately to France or Spain without the luxury of stepping foot into Britain's legal labyrinth. Immediate return, nearest safe harbour, no limbo in Kent, no hotel rooms, no taxpayer-funded appeals for years on end, straight back across the water. Anything short of this is weakness dressed up as law. Anything less is Britain accepting that we are a doormat for smugglers and a free advertisement for criminal networks. Anything less is consent to failure. And if Europe's law prevents that, then so much worse for Europe's law. Britain is not chained to the ECHR or Dublin or any alphabet soup of conventions that were signed in another era, under different pressures, with assumptions that no longer hold. If the treaties don't serve the people of this country, then the treaties must go. They are not holy writ. They are contracts, and contracts can be renegotiated or abandoned. Now let's anticipate the pearl clutchers. They will cry, but international law, but obligations, but Britain's reputation. They will write op-eds in The Guardian about morality. They will invite lawyers onto the BBC to lecture us about precedent. They will show pictures of children in life jackets and demand to know if Britain has lost its soul. Fine, let them. Because at the end of the day, law is a tool, not a deity. And tools that no longer work must be put aside. Britain's reputation will not be destroyed by protecting its borders. Britain's reputation is already being destroyed by being laughed at as incapable of control. Some will argue for multilateral solutions, for Europe-wide consensus, but consensus is another word for paralysis. Consensus is 27 governments arguing over commas while smugglers count cash. Consensus is Brussels writing press releases while inflatable dinghies slip past French patrols. Consensus is useless when the problem is urgent. What works is leverage. What works is sovereignty. What works is bilateral deals that give France and Spain incentives to police their shores. Right now, France has no incentive. They get paid for patrols, but the boats still launch. Why should they crack down harder when the problem sails across the Channel and lands on our beaches? But the moment Britain says no, every boat comes back to you, suddenly the calculus changes. Suddenly, Paris and Madrid realize they can't shrug the problem onto us. Suddenly, they have skin in the game. That's when you see action. That's when the boats stop. Yes, it will mean uneven deals. Yes, it will mean asymmetry. France might get one arrangement, Spain another, Italy something else entirely. And that's not failure. That's reality. Not every country needs the same bargain. What matters is that each bargain serves Britain's interest. If Brussels is offended, so be it. Brussels is not sovereign over us. And let's be honest, this isn't radical. Australia did it. They enforced offshore processing, they broke the smugglers' model, and the boats stopped. Was there international outrage? Yes. Were there endless lectures from human rights groups? Yes. Did Australia collapse? No. The boats stopped. The smugglers lost their product. The border was defended. That's what matters. We should learn from that, not pretend we're too polite. The smugglers are not polite. The gangs are not polite. The crossings are not polite. They're brutal, exploitative, and cynical. Matching them with polite legal tweaks is pathetic. Matching them with immediate returns is power. This is where Starmer's Rethink falls short. He wants to look decisive, but not be decisive. He wants to calm Labour's left flank while not alienating swing voters. He wants headlines that say action without consequences that cause Brussels to snarl. It's triangulation. And triangulation does not stop boats. Boats are stopped by hard choices, not soft words. The choice is simple. Either we accept that once a boat lands here, the asylum system becomes an open door, or we slam that door shut by ensuring no boat stays. Either we remain tied to treaties that were designed decades ago for different circumstances, or we adapt, as sovereign nations always must. Either we prioritise the comfort of lawyers in Strasbourg, or we prioritise the will of voters in Dover, Kent and Sunderland. And let's stop pretending there is some middle path. There isn't. Deterrence only works if it is absolute. Smugglers only stop selling a product if the product becomes worthless. If even one boat in 10 succeeds, the trade continues. If every boat fails, the trade ends overnight. That's the binary. That's the truth. Some will ask, what about the moral duty, the humanitarian side? Here's the truth. The small boat crossings are not humanitarian. They are death routes. People die in the channel. Families drown. Children suffocate. These boats are not compassion. They are cruelty sold as compassion. The only moral act is to end the crossings entirely by making them pointless. That is mercy. That is justice. And here's the patriotic truth. Britain is not heartless. Britain has taken in refugees legally for decades. Britain has provided asylum through safe routes, through sponsorships, through resettlement. We are generous, but generosity is not the same as being exploited. Sovereignty means we choose who comes, not the smugglers. Sovereignty means we build fair systems, not open doors to anyone with cash for a dinghy. Sovereignty means law that serves us, not us serving law. So, yes, let's rethink, but not in the timid way Starmer suggests. Let's rethink everything. Let's rethink whether these treaties serve us. Let's rethink whether Brussels deserves the authority we've granted it. Let's rethink the idea that law is immutable while politics shifts beneath it. Let's rethink sovereignty as more than a slogan, as an instrument of protection. If Europe won't bend, then we walk. If Europe won't deal, then we deal with nations one by one. If France and Spain resist, then we create incentives that make them comply. If Brussels screams, let them scream. Britain is the jewel of Europe, not because Europe grants us permission, but because we act with clarity and courage when others dither. This is the moment for clarity. No half measures, no tinkering, no rethinks that mean nothing, immediate returns or nothing, sovereignty over sermons, protection over paralysis. And if that requires us to abandon old conventions, to make bespoke agreements, to anger Brussels, then so be it, because the alternative is national humiliation. The alternative is nightly footage of dinghies arriving unchallenged. The alternative is smugglers grinning as our courts tie themselves in knots. The alternative is surrender, and surrender is not acceptable. The only acceptable outcome is that every small boat that leaves France or Spain never lands on Britain's shores. The only acceptable outcome is that smugglers find their trade dead overnight. The only acceptable outcome is Britain making law, not law making Britain. Anything else is weakness, and weakness is not an option. Not right, not left, just real.